Welcome to the Rise Method podcast, where we make fitness information available to everyone. I'm Steve. Let's jump in.
What's up, guys? Coach Steve here, and welcome back to another episode of the Rise Method podcast. In today's episode, we have our very special guest, our resident human, Laura. Laura, how are you doing today?
Good. We're back again.
We are back again for another episode. But, Laura, before we start, the people want to know, what is your superpower?
Yes. So last episode, we sidestepped into talking about superpowers.
Yes.
And you gave yours.
Yes.
I need to think about it.
Yes.
And I have decided I would like to stop time or freeze time. Pause time.
Pause time.
If that's a superpower. I don't know if that's a superpower or like something else. Anyway, I would like to be able to just have a minute to think, to sleep, to eat. Just have a minute.
So it's kind of like your decision on trying to figure out what superpower to have. You need more time. So if you were able to stop time, you would be able to think about what superpower you wanted, which was
like
to
a
stop
second
time.
Superpower.
Double superpower.
Yeah. So that's my superpower. I just need to freeze. I could get a workout in. I could have a little play on the Rise app and maybe select the new kettlebell workout, which I will be starting tomorrow. Just FYI.
Fresh. Well, hopefully you get into the swing of things. There's a few.
I've got nothing.
There's a few kettlebell swings on that one.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll be all around it. Well, look, team, we are going to be talking about perfectionism today and the all or nothing mindset. The all or nothing mindset, the black and white thinking, the idea that, we need to be perfect, we need to get this thing done, we need to be optimal, we need to be right, we need to be 100%. And if not, there's no point doing it.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about how that kind of creeps into the fitness space and why it could be the barrier that's stopping your progress. The reason why you're not getting the gains. Okay. And to help us understand the all or nothing mindset, it's easier to kind of take our head out of the fitness space and think about how it applies in our everyday life. And that can help us just to kind of objectively look at it and be like, well, that's a bit silly, or, oh, okay, that makes sense, or, okay, that's how it's important or not, right? So think of yourself as a gardener. Imagine yourself a gardener. You love tending to the plants. You've got the green thumb and you have a little veggie patch in your backyard. Kind of like us. We have a little chili plant down the back, some basil. Yeah, we've got some strawberries.
We act like we are gardeners and we have a veggie patch.
Yeah, the possums that
so
eat
we've got basil,
our strawberries.
Got strawberries, grapes.
Yeah.
Chilies.
Lemons.
The lemon tree.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
I digress. So imagine you, dear listener, our gardeners for our veggie patch, right? Or you have your own veggie patch and you're tending to your veggie patch. You love your veggie patch. And every day you're going out there watering, every day you're making sure there's no weeds there, there's no bugs there, right? And one day the weather is really trash. Okay. And an example here in Melbourne the other day, it was super hot and one of our ferns actually got a little bit cooked in the sun. So we now have a half dead fern. Yeah. So that's another part of our garden.
Well, I brought him back to life, but just anyway.
Well, you've ruined my punchline here, Laura. So imagine like the sun kind of burnt your plant a little bit, the plant dried out. You couldn't water the plant, it was too hot. Or maybe, you went away for a few days, went away for the weekend, you couldn't tend to your plant and a possum got to the plant, just like possum got to our strawberry plants in the garden. What would you do? What would you do? You love your plants. You've been tending to your garden for a really long time. You want to get it right. You want to get it perfect. You've been reading about plants. You've been reading about strawberries. You've been reading about ferns and how to grow grapes and how to grow basil. And, for circumstances that you can't control, ruins part of your garden patch. So it's not perfect. It's not like they do online. It's not like they do with your neighbor's house or whatever it is. You have two options. You can either look at your veggie patch, throw your arms in the air and say, screw this, and rip out all the plants and start again. You buy the packets of seeds from Bunnings and you plant it all again and start all over again. Or you bring them back to life. You give them a little love, a little bit of TLC. You keep on doing the gardening thing. You water your plants, attend to the plants, and you keep maintaining your plants to your best ability, right? And that's the whole point of being a gardener, because you don't necessarily win gardening, right?
No.
Sure, you can enter plant competitions.
Some people can.
Who grows the biggest garden or the biggest, pumpkin or whatever, or maybe you're a farmer and it's your means of life. Sure, okay. But to be a gardener is to be gardening, right? You don't win at gardening. And it's kind of like fitness. You know, to be in fitness is about being healthy. It's to be fit. So being in fitness is doing fitness. You don't win fitness, right? So just because something went wrong doesn't mean it's game over, right? To participate in fitness, you've got to participate in fitness. Yeah. So when we're thinking about our approaches to fitness, folks can kind of fall into this kind of thought belief that everything needs to be perfect. Yeah. And we do see it all the time in the challenge. I've seen it a lot with clients that I've helped in the past, and it can manifest in different ways. Yeah. Laura, let's talk about Pilates.
Pilates, yes.
And the first example of kind of all or nothing, because most of us think all or nothing as you know, weight loss or, you know, nutrition are going to be perfect for these types of things. But one way it manifests is inside places like, you know, group fitness classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had folks come to your class and, you know, maybe first time really anxious, doing a Pilates class. Never done exercise. I haven't done exercise in a long time, getting back into it. And I really stressed about this experience, you know, what is the exercise? Who are you? Who am I? Where am I? What's this reformer bed? You know, what are these lights? Those types of things. Have you experienced people who, you know, spending so much time just trying to get like the exercise or the movement perfect?
Yeah, absolutely. So for people that don't know, I teach Reformer Pilates, and you see it all the time. It's so common from people that have been coming from a long time, from new faces that want to get it right, their form right, and will spend more time asking questions, looking around the room, watching other people instead of actually just moving. So one of the things I will do in my classes is to get everyone to move. Group fitness classes are only 50 minutes long, or about that. My class is about 50 minutes long. So we don't have forever in one exercise. So I get everyone moving, and then generally get everyone to add some regressions as well, injuries, modifications, and then just start to go around and tweak everyone's movement or form. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're not going to injure yourself and the person next to you, you're still moving. You're still exercising, you're still moving, and well, that's better than not. But it's very common in the fitness industry. It's common through every industry. People are perfectionists.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be. But I think the best thing in a fitness aspect is to just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Yeah. Just be like Dory, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, when I have folks send me videos of themselves training on the Rise Method app, they would be doing the exercise, and then halfway through the exercise, they'll kind of turn their head to look at like the mirror or the camera to kind of like make sure that they're getting like the exercise right. And sometimes just the act of trying to be perfect or testing if you're perfect kind of ruins it a little bit. You know, you might be doing a really great squat or, you know, a really great scooter on a reformer bed, or, you know, insert your favorite exercise. But for you to check if it's, quote, perfect, whatever that means with exercise, or correct or optimal, again, whatever that means in exercise, you know, bodies are all different shapes and sizes. How I squat is going to be different to how you squat and such. So the act of, you know, turning your head and looking at the camera or looking at the mirror just changes the approach to it, and then kind of ruins it. Instead of doing the best squat you possibly can, you're now doing the best squat you think you could do while you're trying to think about something else. And then now you're doing a bit of a half-ass squat, right? So sometimes when we're in this position of over-analyzing, we kind of go through this kind of like analysis paralysis. We don't do anything, so we don't do the thing. Yeah. It's very similar to, you know, starting a business. I mean, you know, if we think about it from an outside perspective and break the fourth wall a little bit, when we think about like the Rise business, yeah, you know, we are trying to promote the business and to help people find what we're doing so that they can help themselves and lose weight and build muscle and feel confident in their body and feel strong and have capacity. So there's times where, you know, we have ideas, like let's try this program, let's do this program, what about this, what about that? And sometimes trying to make it the perfect best thing we possibly can leads to no decision being made, right? And then it ruins the process that we go through. Yeah. So part of the action will be to make sure that it's at a proficiency level, that it's good. And then the second part is actually committing and executing it. So when we're looking at fitness, yeah, you know, we still need to do a squat where we're going through a benchmark. We're moving through the ankle, knees, and hips. We're doing something that looks like a squat. But if you're sitting there, analyzing every angle and joint and position and, is my back harsh? Is this okay? Is that okay? That over analysis will hinder your ability to do the squat, and then also decrease the motivation to do it again, because you're super stressed about getting it right. So you're less likely to do it. Whereas if you have a really low bar to actually do the activity, you're like, oh, well, yeah, I go and do it. I might be wrong. I'm doing it. And those reps is what makes it good, rather than over analyzing and trying to get it perfect at the start. Yeah.
Having said that, there is a lot of fear around injuries.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lifting or squatting a heavy load, you may have, read years ago, or someone's sister's cousin's best friend told you that you're going to pop a disc or roll your ankle, or you're going to need a hip replacement. So there's fear around that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the osteo here. Obviously, there are, as you said, benchmarks to meet when you're doing an exercise or anything. But at the end of the day, you're moving. You're not that fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's not that fragile. Your spine is not that fragile.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about that fear, that's often something that is, what's the saying? An inch deep and a mile wide, where, you're super fearful of that exercise. Oh, is it perfect? Is it perfect? I need to get it right before I do it because of X, Y, and Z fear. But you probably find that your body is quite strong and robust. And in the clinic, I often bring up analogies, let's say in the lower body, where people would be scared to load their knee or their hip because of a previous injury. And load, what I mean by load is weight. They're scared to add weight. So they might go on the knee extension machine, sit down and just straighten your knee, and they put like 5 kilos on the machine. Like, I'm just scared,
And that's fair. That's fair. No one wants to be in pain or to repeat.
Yeah. But then when you think about load that goes through the body, like when you're walking, it's something like 4 or 5 times your body weight going through each leg. Yeah. Or when you're running, it's somewhat of like 8 to 9 times your body weight of load going through each leg. So for that individuals who walk to the gym, like from their car to inside the gym to use the leg extension machine, they would be putting, 5 times their body weight through one leg. So for me, about 100 kilos, that's like 500 kilos of force going through my leg. And then I'm worried and use the 5 kilo load on a leg extension. So highlighting these things, really breaks down that fear and going, well, okay, are you over obsessing over your technique and your form, which is causing that fear? Yeah. And another side analogy, and you could do this with me right now, is when we're talking about things like back pain, right? Often folks have a big fear of movement, and their over obsession with trying to get their movement perfect because they're worried that they're going to, slip a disc or break their back or whatever they decide to do. So the spine is meant to be really flexible. Yeah. Kind of like your wrist. So if you hold your wrist up now and you kind of move your wrist around, you can feel how it's, nice and loose. Yeah. But then if you held your wrist there and then made a big fist in your wrist and really squeeze that fist as hard as you can, your forearms are squeezing and you're squeezing that wrist like you're trying to crush a ball in your hand, try to hold that fist and then try to move your wrist around, and you'll find that it's painful to move the wrists around. And a similar thing happens like in the spine. So an injury happens, we have a bit of fear in the body where we're worried to move. We might have that bit of obsession of being perfect with movement. So then so we're constantly like squeezing our fist or squeezing our spine. Then as soon as we do any sort of movement, we go, ow, right? When it might be better to go, hey, let's just relax. You find that your spine is really mobile, your wrist is really mobile, and we can actually start making progress in your experience with pain and the function that you have in your body, right? So how do these things kind of creep themselves into fitness? Yeah. And the first thing to appreciate is when we're going through a weight loss journey or fitness journey, we are dealing with the physiology of the body. We're often talking about the physical side of things, but weight loss has lots of deep emotional connections to it.
Absolutely.
Right? It's strong emotional response we have when we're looking at ourselves in the mirror, we're judging ourselves, we're really being really critical of the way we look and how we feel, often with, health kind of things thrown in there and challenges socially and all. It's very complicated and very emotional.
Yep.
So when we start the weight loss journey, we want to make sure we do it right. We might have tried it over and over and over again in months and years of trying. And we just might think, it's not working for me because I'm not doing it right. So we have this obsession where it's like, well, I need to be 100% perfect or I'm not going to get these results. I'm not going to get there. Right. So what happens is we create unrealistic expectations. So we might say, I want to train 7 days a week for an hour every day. and then I want to get 20,000 steps a day. Because I know that 10,000 steps is what we should be getting, but I want to double that, you know, because I want the results. Yeah. And then, you know, you only choose to eat foods that are like super low carb, that have like no sugar, that is quote clean food, whatever that means. You decide to only eat lettuce, and you want to make sure that you only eat 800 calories. Why? Well, you know, I calculated that I need 1,600 calories, so I'm going to cut that in half. I need 800 calories, and that's I want to get my goals. So you set these really unrealistic goals and have these really unrealistic expectations of yourself. So what happens? You don't meet them, right? They're super unrealistic. You're not going to train 7 days a week. You're not going to eat 800 calories or go from, you know, 3,000 calories to 800 calories a day. It's not going to happen, right? So eventually you slip up. You can't maintain the strategy that you have. So you have a food that, you know, has a carb in it, or have a food that has a piece of sugar in it, or you have a drink or a slice of cake, or you skip a meal, or you skip a workout, or something happens and it's not part of the plan. You go through a cycle of guilt. You go through a cycle of shame. You go through this emotional response thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of this. It's not something that I'm, you know, capable of. And then you say, well, it's not for me. So you go deeper into despair. You know, you go through binge eating episodes. You don't exercise again. You start going through the pain of, you know, gaining weight and go through that cycle again. And then you go all the way back to the start. You go, well, I need to do something about this. You go all in, set down in unrealistic expectations. You go through that cycle. Eventually you make a quote slip up, and then you go through that same cycle of guilt and rinse and repeat for, you know, years and decades and decades. Right. It sucks.
It does.
It's not cool. And I think lots of us can relate to something like this because we want to get it right. Yeah. We want to make sure that, you know, we're getting these results, where we're sick and we're tired of the way we look and how we feel, and we want to get this thing done.
Yeah. And you want to get it done quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we know realistically that it's probably taken years for you to get there. So realistically, it might take a bit of time for you to get out of there, but I totally appreciate it. We want results now. It's like, hey man, like what's the point of doing this thing? It's hard for 12 months, 24 months when, you know, I want the result now. Yeah. So we've spoken a little bit of how this looks in the fitness space. And I want to talk about a few other ideas of how this looks, because you might be in the all or nothing mindset, thinking very black and white about your fitness journey when you might not actually know about it. Okay. So firstly, talking about nutrition side of things. And this is kind of where it really divulges itself, where we use the terms like, oh, I want to be 100%, I want to be perfect, and make, you know, unrealistic rules for ourselves where we say, oh, I don't eat after X time, or I don't eat this macronutrient, or I don't eat this type of food, right? So we set these unrealistic expectations. And if we break those expectations, that's it, throw the towel, we're done, it's over, game over, right? And really, when we're looking at nutrition side of things, there is so much flexibility in how we can approach nutrition, especially for weight loss. And here's the thing that is both liberating and sucks a lot. Yeah. Gives us freedom and despair at the same time. When it comes to nutrition, we can't ever be perfect.
No.
We can't ever be perfect. And it is errors on errors on errors. And it's a little bit of this beautiful, messy thing when we think about nutrition. For example, you might claim that you eat 2,000 calories a day. We have data and science and literature that looked at dietitians who their job is to track food and to look at databases and to know the quantities of foods. And from this literature, we can see that dietitians get nutrition tracking wrong all the time, upwards of 50% wrong from the way that they track. Yeah. That's one part of it, how we're actually recording our food. And a lot of us suck at tracking it. Oh, is this 100 grams of cooked? Is it uncooked? Did I cook it the whole way? Is it measured correctly? Did I measure the packaging? Did I not measure the packaging? Did I measure the banana with the skin on, skin off? What did I do? So we track the foods incorrectly, the first part of it. The second part of nutrition is that the database it actually comes from might be incorrect, right? So you might be recording a banana and one database might say that it's X calories and another database it's Y calories. Which one is correct? I don't know. It's slightly different data. So when we look at bananas in a whole, it's, you know, the average of that is, we could say, oh, it's roughly this many calories. So first, we're getting the actual way that we record the food wrong, then the actual recording data incorrect, right? Then we can go even deeper with nutrition. taking the banana as an example, the different ripeness of the banana changes the nutritional content of that banana. The difference in when and how we eat that banana changes the way that we absorb the banana and then the calories that we actually get from that banana. So if you mash the banana versus if it's a really ripe banana, you turn it into a muffin, for example, or if you are really dehydrated when you eat the food or really hydrated when you eat the food or an empty stomach or a full stomach, it all changes the way that we absorb those calories. So you might say, oh yeah, I'm having 100 grams of banana because that's how I weighed the banana with the skin on and everything. And what actually happens at the very end is you might only absorb, 80 grams of that banana, and that might equate to, X amount of calories, right? So when we look at that objectively, we go, well, it's an error we're recording, an error with data, an error with absorption of that food stacked on all these other errors. It's even worse with labels. Labels can be incorrect by up to 20% from the actual food supplier, right? So it's error on error on error. So you can't be confident anyway. So if you're stressing over, being like, I'm going to eat 2,000 calories on the dot, you might not be.
Probably not.
You're probably not. There's a extremely high chance that you're not. And even then, to get to 2,000 calories on the dot is near impossible, right? Because the way that food composition stacks onto each other, you're more likely to get in between a range, maybe 1,900 to 2,100 calories rather than 2,000 on the dot. So it's better to look at it as a range rather than to be perfect. So you're probably better off looking at nutrition of trying to be in the ballpark of nutrition rather than trying to be in the bullseye of nutrition. Imagine like you're throwing a dart. Hey, if you hit the dartboard, you're winning, but you don't need to be focusing on hitting the actual bullseye, right? So that's where on our app, we look at a 20% margin. So we're looking at being within 20% of your calorie goal and 20% of your macro goal because it's realistic, because we know that we can't ever be perfect. Even if you're trying to be perfect, you're probably not measuring it right. You're probably not using the correct data from it. You're probably not absorbing it the right way. There's no point stressing about it. So it's in one way giving us freedom. But on the other side, it's also, well, what's the point of this, right? The point is, we need to have some sort of target, right? If you're trying to save up for a house, you need to make sure that you're actually getting within the ballpark of saving money. You can't just throw money at the wall and hopefully it sticks. Right?
Yeah, you're working towards something. So what is your something?
Exactly. So we need to be within that range. We need to be getting close to it. You need to hit the dartboard. So the best thing we could do is try to be as accurate as we can. And the best way to do that is to look at statistics. Remember when you go to uni, year one at uni, and you do a statistics course? Remember that? You love that one? Yep. When we look at averages over time, if we're consistently doing the same thing over and over again, then we can have a better prediction of the result, right? So if you are having the same meal every single day, regardless of what the calories are, I don't know which one are, whatever the calories are, it could be 2,087 calories. You might think it's 2,000. It's actually 2,087. It doesn't matter. You can just call it X. You're having the same meals every single day. So you can consistently say, I'm having X calories. I think it's 2,000, but it's really 2,087. It doesn't matter because you're consistently slightly incorrect. Yeah. So the point is, you can't ever be perfect, even if you want it to be.
You can be consistently incorrect.
Yes, right?
I love it.
Yeah. And, if you imagine you have, have you ever gone to a rifle range or an archery range or something like that?
Absolutely not. Oh, archery maybe.
Archery maybe? Yeah. So, sometimes the bow, the actual scope might be slightly calibrated differently, your eyesight. Yeah. So when you release the bow or if you release the rifle, you might find that even if you're aiming directly at the target, the bow kind of skews to the right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So sometimes that happens. And that's usually just recalibration, maybe your eyesight, that type of thing. So what you can do is you can either recalibrate the scope or you just know that it's going to skew to the right slightly so that you just adjust your angle slightly to the left so that you can account for the slight right bend so that you're consistently incorrect in your scope, but then you're more accurate. Right? Following me?
I'm following.
You're following. Okay. So the point is we can't ever be perfect and we're just wasting energy and wasting mental capacity and trying to be perfect when it comes to nutrition. Yeah. When we're looking at weight loss, it's very broad. We go, hey, all you need to do on paper is just to consume fewer calories than you expend. You don't need to be focusing on macros. You don't need to be focusing on sugar. You don't need to be focusing on salt. You don't need to be focusing on clean foods or processed. Well, it doesn't matter. It's all that calories. Of course, you're going to feel better if you had more whole foods, more fruits and vegetables. Probably be healthier if you didn't consume lots of sugar and didn't consume lots of salt, right? We know these things. But when it comes to weight loss, it's all about, calories in, calories out. It's all about the energy balance. Yeah. The other way that our all or nothing mindset can manifest itself into the fitness space, talking a bit more about training, is that we try so hard to get the training program perfect, right? The perfect exercise, the perfect number of sets, perfect number of reps, perfect number of weight, the perfect technique. What then happens is that we, obsess over watching videos of ourselves train. We obsess over our program and we program hop, which means that we start a program in 1 week, and then the second week we do a different program. And we have a few culprits in the RISE method right now where they would do a week of the build program, then a week of the shape program, and then a week of the unique new program that's currently out now, or a week of the kettlebell program that just got released, or maybe a few sweat workouts thrown in 1 week, no sweat workouts the next week. And so we're constantly throwing things around. And
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm 100% guilty with that.
It happens. And the problem with that is to actually get results in a training program, we need to have some consistency.
Yeah.
Right. We need to be in a position where we're applying the same stimulus over time so that we can adapt to that stimulus. Yeah. It's kind of like, back to our garden analogy, we have a few different plants in our veggie patch, but imagine if
we have a very random,
right? Imagine if we want 1 week we wanted chilies, which we do, but the next week we wanted to add another fruit in there, an apple tree. So we decided to rip out the chilies and put in the apple tree. And then what do we do with the chilies? We need to relocate to another part of the garden, which has been done before. And then the next week, we decide to take out the apple tree to replace it with a banana tree because we thought there was going to be sunlight in Melbourne.
I still think the banana tree is a great idea.
No, that's a horrible idea. So that stays at Bunnings. And then we rinse and repeat every week. We're changing a different plant. And what happens is we don't grow any plants. It's the same with our training. So if we're program hopping every single week, we get a new program. Sure, it's fun and exciting, but we don't grow any plants. We don't grow any muscle. We don't see any adaptation. We don't improve our fitness. So the best thing to do is actually stay consistent with the plan, right? But your obsession with making it perfect stops us from seeing results. Your obsession with making the perfect veggie garden stops you from actually getting any plants, right? Your obsession with the perfect program is stopping you from seeing progress. The final way that our all or nothing mindset can creep into fitness is when we try so hard to make it perfect, but as soon as we have a stuck up, we just kind of throw everything out the window, and then we want to reset. Kind of like when we say, "Oh, I'll start again on Monday," or "This day's ruined. I might as well just have to make the most of it." So
next month's my month.
Next month's my month. All right. So, for example, on one particular day, you're at work and they bring out cake because it's so and so's birthday, and you have a slice of cake and you think, well, that's it. I guess this day's ruined. I might as well go out for lunch, and I might as well go out for afternoon tea, and then go out for dinner, and then have dessert. Because the day's ruined, I'll start again fresh tomorrow. What you could have done is just had the cake, and then continued on with your lunch and your afternoon snack, your dinner, and away you go. Or if you miss a workout, so you've done your Monday session, your workout, but you missed out on your Wednesday session, and you go, well, this week's ruined. I had no point doing the Friday session or the Saturday session. I'm going to start again fresh on Monday. Right. And you repeat that over and over again, week on week on week on week, and you don't see any progress. Right. When it's probably better just to, okay, I missed the Monday session. I missed the Wednesday session. I'm just going to do that on the Thursday, or I'm just going to skip that workout altogether and then keep going on the Friday session. Right. So it's a better way to approach it. Yeah. And we know this as we're on the outside, but once we're on the inside, we can see how that kind of manifests and grows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, sometimes, here's a bit of the kicker, where sometimes our obsession with making it perfect, our obsession with the all or nothing mindset is masking something. And that masking something is masking the challenge that's in front of us. We know that fitness is hard. And when we hit the wall of, geez, this is difficult, we have a few things we can do. We can give up, or we're going to spend more time trying to make it optimal. We spend more time trying to make it perfect, and we procrastinate. We go, well, it's too difficult. There must be a better way to make it better. This exercise is too hard. Training heavy is too hard. Dieting is too hard. There must be a better way. So we go through this past bit of procrastination. We go, well, there must be a better way. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to figure it out and try to be perfect with it. And that perfection pursuit is just procrastinating from the work that needs to get done. And perfection comes from doing the reps. Perfection comes from the volume that you do. So it's not about thinking about doing the squat. It's about doing the squat that makes it perfect. So that's something that we need to confront, where sometimes it's all procrastinating. Sometimes it's our mental barrier that's stopping our progress because we want to be perfect. We don't want to be all in. We want to get the results, but we also have hit the wall of the first challenge that we face, and we just need to work on overcoming that wall. And that comes through the work, comes through the effort, comes through the grind of fitness. And because fitness isn't easy. Fitness is hard. Fitness is that constant pushing of the barrier, which for a lot of folks is too much.
Fitness is fitting it into your lifestyle.
Fitting it into your lifestyle.
Should get that on a t-shirt.
Get that on a t-shirt. Fitting it into your lifestyle.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, look, Laura, let's try to wrap it up by talking about how we're going to overcome this all or nothing mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first step should be to review your goals and review your expectations. Yeah. So if someone comes to a Pilates class and, they want to get perfect on day one, they've seen some people on Instagram doing some funky flows. They want to get it perfect. They want to get it right. They want to make sure that, they're not going to hurt themselves. They want to have the elegant look, and they want to make sure the springs are right, the bed's right, you're right, I'm right, the lights are right, all the things. What are you going to tell that person on day one about their expectations if they want to be, a superstar and be able to do the elephant and the snake on day one, and they've never even seen a reformer bed?
Well, firstly, it's not Instagram, is usually what I say. It's not Instagram. This is reality. Secondly, the first class, I usually explain to all my clients that it is a very overwhelming session. The main thing to take away from your first class is to understand the reformer basics, understand what you're working with, and we'll go from there. You can progress from there. If you're feeling a bit stronger, whatever in the next class, stick to the basics for the first one, understand what you're working with.
Yep. No, I love that. It's about creating a benchmark first, a foundation, a baseline, and then building onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's perfect when it comes to just fitness as a whole. Instead of committing and saying, well, I want to do 7 workouts a week.
Ooh.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Who has time for that for one?
Exactly. Plus get my, 10,000 steps in every day. Jeez, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
What would be a better expectation is if you say, hey, I want to train once this week. You set the bar disgustingly low.
Yeah.
Right? So it's almost impossible to not reach that goal. If that's your expectation, I want to work out once this week. And once you hit that once this week, you're going to feel amazing. You're like, hey, I hit my goal this week.
Yep.
I'm going to do it again next week.
Yep.
Right? So you hit your goal next week as well. You do your 1 session a week. Oh, this is easy. Right? And then from there, you might progress. I'm going to do 2 workouts a week. So you do 2 workouts a week. This is amazing. I'm kicking goals. You might progress to 3. Whoop. It's going to be hard. Kids are sick. Got to fit in work. Got to fit in life. Got to clean the house. All right. Maybe 3 workouts too much right now. I'm going to stick to 2. I nailed that goal. So you stick to 2. You do 2 workouts for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. Great. You're starting to see progress from your 2 workouts a week, which is enough to start to see some sort of strength gains and skill gains and feeling confident in yourself. And then you re-tackle that 3rd workout. You go, I want to find a way to add that in. So we're building up over time. That's a better way to look at it rather than kind of going all in. Yeah. Now, the other part of it is to look at it, instead of trying to be perfect, is to consider focusing on progress. Yes, instead of being perfect, let's think about focusing on progress and progressing where you are. Because firstly, you're never going to be perfect.
No,
right?
no.
And I'm going to use the example of training, right? I constantly film myself.
Yep.
And I constantly reflect on my technique as a way to improve the execution of the movement.
Yep.
Most of those videos don't end up on Instagram or anybody else, just me. I often delete those videos. But sometimes I look back at videos from, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, and I watch my videos of me training. And at the time, I thought I was great. At the time, I was excellent and proficient. But I look back now and almost like cringe a little bit, like, oh, geez, that's how I used to squat or deadlift or bench press or whatever I was doing. So I know that I've made progress over time, whereas at the moment, I thought it was perfect. But through growth, I'm able to realize that wasn't perfect. And even now, I'm not perfect because I'm constantly looking at ways to get better. So it's focusing on the progression. When we think about technique execution. And I was speaking to a few students last night in my Cert 3 course that I'm teaching in fitness, where we're talking about exercise execution and, what would be the best technique for, it was a bench press that we were doing. And what I was explaining to them was that as we get stronger and more skilled at the bench press, we need to use a more optimal technique so that we can lift more weights, right? We need to use a more efficient technique so that we are stronger. And that can come with, some manual technique adjustments, or you could just focus on progressing the weight over time, and your body needs to figure out where to place the shoulders, the elbows, and to push, and the synchronization of the bench press so that you can lift optimally. Because if you didn't lift optimally, you won't be able to, bench press 100, 150 kilos, right? So one way to get better at technique is to not worry about technique. It's just to do the reps, is to get stronger over time, because your body will figure out, it will regress to the mean and get, quote, optimal or more efficient over time. So instead of focusing about being perfect, focus about progressing, and through that progression, you'll find perfection.
Beautiful. Love it. Another t-shirt.
Perfection in progression. Ooh, here we go. So, Laura, we'll get ready to wrap up there.
Yep.
Do you have any closing thoughts, ideas, opinions about what we're talking about today?
Gardener Steve.
Can
we get a banana plant?
No.
Okay.
If we moved to a sunny place, Sunshine State.
I don't think so.
Is that what they call Queensland? Sunshine State?
I hate the heat.
Yeah. Well, bananas need sunshine to grow. So no, we're not getting bananas here in Melbourne.
House.
Well,
anyway,
I digress. So no bananas happening here, but we are still gardening because just like
basil,
fitness,
chilies, strawberries, and grapes need to grow.
They do. They need to have a great time. On that note, let's wrap up there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Rise Method podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.